Hi, everybody. Good morning or good afternoon. Welcome to today's presentation. Really excited to have everybody here. I'm Dora Cheetham with Jessica, and we are really thrilled to have Vered Noe, Andrea Yona, and Dan Cho with us today to talk to you about bird grants. These grants are fantastic when it comes to really catalyzing partnerships and innovation. So I don't really want to talk a little bit anymore about us. I would like to pass over to Vered to start the presentation.
Good morning, everybody. Dora and Erica, thank you so much for collaborating with me and the Philadelphia Israel Chamber and Bird Foundation, I think for the third time within a year time. Last time it was in a wonderful conference you hosted a year ago before COVID when life was different. And really thank you for the opportunity to collaborate on growing the economy here and in Israel. I'm going to share my presentation. So my name is Vered Noe. I'm Executive Director of the Philadelphia Israel Chamber. We are an independent nonprofit that is located in Philadelphia, although I'm in Wilmington. And we connect Israeli and Greater Philadelphia, Southern New Jersey, Delaware companies and academic institute for joint ventures in many, many different kinds of industries. We also very proudly represent the U.S.-Israel Binational Industrial R&D Foundation, which is BIRD, in Delaware, Pennsylvania, and Southern New Jersey. And I'm with the Chamber already 7.5 years, so we've had a little bit of experience with that. We have Delaware-based members, and we're really, really proud partners of the Delaware Sustainable Chemistry Alliance, which is an incredible organization. Let's see, why is the slide not going? Here we go. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about Israel. Why would you even think about collaborating with Israel? Israel is a world leader in sustainable technologies. And these are, I'm just focusing on the technologies that pertain mostly for your membership, but definitely we do everything else as well. And so this may include water tech, agri-tech, food tech, energy and efficiency, supply chain, digital transformation, almost anything that you need to make your company succeed, grow your revenue, be more competitive. It includes all those technologies, and you can co-develop different technologies with Israeli partners and pilot it, bring it to market. And we can be partners in helping you connect to those companies and help coach you to actually do a successful joint venture. Our guest today is Andrea Yona, a very good friend, and also happens, by the way, to be director of U.S. East Coast Midwest of the Bird Foundation. She has extensive experience connecting Israeli and regional companies for joint ventures. I've been with the Chamber 7.5 years, and as long as that, she's been there and longer, as well as previously headed the New Jersey Israel Commission. Andrea and I work very closely to coach companies on one-on-one when necessary about the priorities for choosing the grant, the partners for the grants, and etc., all the way to having a successful completion. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce my dear friend, Andrea Yona. Let me stop the share.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vered. I'm going to share my screen. Here I go. Okay, so again, thank you very much to both Erica and Dora at DESCA. Such a great organization, and really so proud to partner with them. And like Vered said, this is the third event that we've done with DESCA, as well as the PICC. Valen and I are pretty much, we're like partners in crime. We work together all the time, speak almost on a daily basis. And I work with a lot of organizations, but I don't think there's any organization more than the Philadelphia Israel Chamber that can really work one-on-one with each company and really identify potential partnerships or other types of partnerships, whether they're for R&D or export or other things. But what I see from on the R&D and really being able to do the work needed to help their members find the appropriate partners. So thank you so much, Vered, for always being such a great partner. And of course, Daniel Chow, who will introduce after my presentation a great project. So just to quickly take you through the BIRD Foundation. The BIRD is an acronym by National Industrial Research and Development. And as I always say, it has nothing to do with birds and not technically a foundation. It's more like a federally funded R&D program, which is in fact what it is, just a binational one. It has been around for many years. So it started back in 1977 with a joint endowment that was created between the two countries, the US and Israel, putting each country $55 million into this joint $110 million endowment for the purposes of encouraging joint development of innovative technologies toward a commercial end. Between companies in both countries. That's how and why it got started with a board membership of government entities from both sides. So on the US side for our general program, headed up by the NIST, along with members from the State Department, Department of the Treasury, and the relevant Israeli ministries on the Israeli side. So what is BIRD and how does it work? Yes, we help to facilitate these partnerships, but at the end of the day, we can fund those partnerships. We fund them using a risk-sharing mechanism. So what does that mean? We can put in up to 50% of the combined project budget between the two companies and to a maximum of $1 million. So in fact, what that means is for up to $1 million from the BIRD side, that would mean a $2 million or more project in terms of the combined project budget between the two companies. So there's obviously shared risk. We're putting dollar to dollar towards the specific development expenses associated with the project from both the US and the Israeli companies. And both of the companies are also putting in their own dollars or in kind towards their budget. The other part of the risk sharing mechanism is the repayment mechanism. So if, and only if the project is successful and achieves a commercial success or revenue, there is a requirement to repay the foundation. It's non-dilutive and it's capped. We're not a venture capital, but we do use these repayments to help us to fund other projects above and beyond what we can fund using the interest on the endowment. So we invest in all industry sectors with the exception only of military specific technology. So you can see here, this is currently our portfolio. It's been a successful program for both the US and Israel, with us BIRD being able to invest now over $360 million. And that's just our part of it. That doesn't include the match and the cost sharing from the private sector. We've now approved over 1,000 projects with repayments now over the $110 million, meaning, as I like to say, a good return on investment for the governments. And most significantly, according to an economic impact study done, about $10 billion that will generated either directly or indirectly from the projects that we funded. What does that mean? So these projects are generating a lot of, there's a lot of ways that we can kind of quantify its success, obviously through sales and sales of the products that are developed, the repayments deferred, the number of jobs created through research and development, through manufacturing, through setting up offices and operations, the capital that companies can raise as the result, even just of the approval of their project. M&A, foreign direct investment in establishing subsidiaries or R&D centers in the other country, and obviously exports. So what are we looking for at the end of the day with this program? High level of innovation, very important. We want to see that there's real risk in the technology that's being developed. We want to see good synergy between the two companies. What do we mean? We're looking for really complementary technologies. So these aren't projects where one company is doing all the R&D and the other is really focusing on business development and marketing or sales. This is really joint development with the synergy being complementary technologies, and a real risk sharing between the two. So we really want to always see that both companies have some skin in the game. There needs to be a good market opportunity and the ability of the companies to quantify that. And finally, a sound commercialization strategy. And we like to see that at least one of the two companies should really have this experience, should be able to demonstrate experience in the market and have the ability to commercialize and get this product to market with the appropriate distributors or distribution channels to do so. So why do companies come to Bird? Large, small, medium? Obviously, they're looking for the funding, and that's the case for all size companies, surprisingly. This program helps to really facilitate these projects. These partnerships, and helps to really strengthen them. It allows either the US company or the Israeli company access to technology that the other does not have. It provides validation, or what we're calling stamp of approval, from the governments, which allows the companies to either raise additional capital based on that validation. So based on validation that the NIST is approving, or we have other programs with the DOE and DHS approving. But that validation is very important, both towards potentially raising capital as well as sales and marketing. It allows the companies to improve their technology, what they're doing, their core capabilities, and provides them better access to the markets. And really what I like to say, time to market, because it helps to take projects and get them further faster maybe than they could have had they not applied. Our next upcoming call for proposals will start with a joint executive summary between the two companies. So yes, you do have need to already have your partnership in place with your partner in Israel in order to apply. You start with an executive summary with the deadline of March. The final full-scale proposal is April 13th, and our board will make decisions in June. So this is quite a quick process. You'll notice here the last sentence, where though our conditional grant is up to 1 million, our board has recently approved the ability to provide up to $1.5 million for exceptional proposals. That would be budgets of $3 million or more. So finally, we have a couple different programs. So I showed you our general cycle. We have two others, should they be relevant. One being Bird Energy, which can certainly be relevant to this audience. And this works exactly the same way, other than this is focused on alternative renewable energy, energy efficiency, water energy nexus. And rather than the NIST being responsible for the technical evaluations in our general cycle, it is the DOE together with the Israeli side. We also have a Bird Homeland Security cycle. If that's of interest, we can talk about that in the Q&A. And an Energy Center program, which we've already pretty much selected those projects, so I'm not going to go into that right now. So I'll just say quickly, the Homeland Security cycle, the call for proposals is already out with the deadlines. And again, if anyone is interested in more information, we can do that in the Q&A or in follow-up. Here are our upcoming calls for proposals at deadlines that we already have, that we've already put out. We have two for our general cycle, one starting in March and ending in June. The other will start in September and end in December. Also the Bird HLS and Bird Energy. Typically our call for proposals will be out in a month or so with the deadlines at the end of June, early July, and approvals in October, November. Lots of companies we've worked with. These are some of the larger ones with the logo recognition. And finally, very happy to showcase two projects in Delaware, which have been extremely successful. Both the PICC has been very much involved with. I'd like to say that the one between Elkatron and Designer Energy, we had showcased that project in our last webinar with Brian Tracy, who is also very much involved in DESCA. So, you know, Delaware is a small place, but I have to say high quality projects. The other project being with Christianacare and an Israeli company called Novelis. Really fascinating project. Look it up or ask me questions about it. And just to conclude, as a result of this great collaboration between the PICC and DESCA and the networking that came out of it, a project was approved in our last Bird Energy cycle between the Wilmington, Delaware company W7 Energy and the Israeli company POCellTech for developing a low-cost fuel cell system based on hydroxide exchange membranes. And so that is a direct result of these webinars. So thank you very much. This is my information and I'll be happy to answer any questions in the Q&A. Most importantly, I'm really happy to introduce Dan Cho, who's the CEO of OnVector, which is going to tell you about a really tremendous project that they have with Netafim, a large multinational Israeli company, which Dan will talk about in his presentation. So he's really the real deal and can really answer all of your questions. So thanks again. I will stop sharing. And Dan, take it all yours.
Thanks, Andrea. Appreciate the introduction and you sharing information about the Bird Foundation. And also I'm learning about DESCA. OnVector, we are a water treatment technology company in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, but definitely we consider Delaware a part of our region and an excellent base for starting technology companies, you know, all the resources that you have there, the tax efficiencies, et cetera. I'm gonna speak very quickly about the company and my background and the technologies, just so that I can give you some perspective of who we are and contextualize this, and then just focus in on our experience with Bird. I can't speak highly enough about Bird. I think our experience has been fabulous, and I strongly recommend you know, this audience to at least consider, explore and consider Bird as a launch point for additional research funds and activities. My background, I came from medtech previously. This is just our team. We are a small startup company, as I said, in water treatment technology. I came from medtech and moved into clean tech around 15 years ago. I have primarily a business background, but also get, you know, fairly deeply involved in technology. Have, you know, 4 patents of my own and publications, both in the diagnostics arena as well as in water treatment. The company, we have been evolving, I think, rapidly, thanks to some non-dilutive grant funding. You know, it's a small team, as I said, just 6 individuals. We benefited from Ben Franklin here in Pennsylvania in 2019, there on the bottom left, and then a series of SBIRs, including from the Air Force and EPA. And then the bottom middle, we're highlighting Bird, is a significant fund. You know, that's the total amount. And so, you know, that was shared with us, between us and our Israeli partner, Netafim, and that was awarded in the beginning of 2020. So we really are midstream in the middle of this project. I'll just talk very quickly about our technology so you could understand what kind of company we are. Plasma is ionized gas, like arc lightning. As a water treatment modality, it's in the same category as ozone and UV, but much, much more robust. Our technology is a hydrocyclone. So you really have lightning inside of a high flowing water. And these reactors we use for industrial wastewater. And through our project with Netafim, we are able to move and advance into water ag tech, basically treatment of water for irrigation purposes. And how the technology works, it's a cyclone with plasma discharged reliably and continuously inside. So water enters tangentially at the top and spins down. There's nowhere for the water to go, so it exits the top just like any centrifugal separator or hydrocyclone. And then we connect our generator to the bottom and inject a gas, which is fully ionized, creating plasma, reliable lightning inside with little or no electrode erosion and no moving parts inside the reactor. It's we believe, and maybe we're a little biased, but hands down the most advanced plasma water technology in the world. I'm going to focus here and just spend a few minutes, and really this is the purpose of my participation in this event. Just to share our experiences and provide what I can in terms of guidance for this audience. I think, again, the Bird Foundation is highly credible and respected, connected to many US federal agencies. And clearly it was established, as Andrea mentioned, in the 70s to stimulate cross-border research and create these partner type of relationships in innovation and industrial research. I would say, I imagine that in the beginning was probably big US companies working with small Israeli startups. But, now there's, medium and very large Israeli companies too, right? So as a startup company, we were able to partner with a large Israeli business that, is a global leader in drip irrigation. They invented drip irrigation, a company called Netafim, and they are number one. So that difference in terms of the large Israeli company, small US startup, maybe can inform some of your perspective. I think it's extremely exciting opportunity to collaborate and partner and create research synergies. The process, I would say, and just starting from the left here, is in our experience, we received a lot of coaching from Andrea. She is fabulous. She is available and provides the mentoring and coaching through this process that's necessary. Essentially, the first step is obviously to identify the Israeli partner. So what's interesting is, and I don't know how universal this is, but this was our experience. Andrea gave us access to, or pointed us to a company database that exists for Israeli businesses, and it's very easily searchable, seemed very comprehensive. There's a lot of good Israeli water tech, so we were able to zero in on a number of potential targets just using the internet and a little bit of guidance from Andrea. And then, we on our side developed a concept that we thought might be synergistic, and essentially, with again some coaching from Andrea, wrote a letter of self-introduction, and she helped us to do the outreach. And it's just one at a time. You have to plan in advance and start this process. But there are, as I said, a good number of Israeli water tech companies. And I know that's also true in pharma, chem, and IT and other areas as well. But we were lucky, and we sparked a high level of interest in our first outreach. So that is, I'd say, the first step. what I would emphasize in terms of what makes that process successful is, in our experience, just having complementary capabilities. In our case, we're small and we have this dynamite water treatment, advanced oxidation and disinfection technology, which really, we felt it was pretty compelling. And then you have a large established business with their own market share and their own expertise in irrigation, world leading. So that is the nature of the complementary aspect of our relationship. Some of the words on this slide, like synergy, complementary, are the same. Innovation are the same as on Andrea's slide, and that was not planned. I think those really are at the heart of the bird partnerships. So in the second stage, if we break it out into 3 steps, what does it take to get a successful funding award? And I would, just like Andrea, emphasize, something really compelling. And the innovation should be, attractive. And the themes, that we see in our industries, in all of your respective industries, there are those that are the most exciting and the most important. And, they don't have to be, the biggest, but, just compelling innovation, I would say, is central to how the reviewers will judge your proposal, and then emphasizing those synergies between you and the Israeli partner, really as essential, as essential part of the proposal. I think also is an important part of a successful funding award. The reviewers, they seem similar to reviewers in the SBIR or U.S. federal agency process. There are expert reviewers that are asked in to review the proposals. And I think at the end of the day, the technology and the science will stand on its own merits. But what makes, just to repeat myself for a second, the proposal successful, I believe, is just to have a dynamite, compelling innovation and presenting that as strong as possible, hitting those key themes that are emerging in your industry, in your field, and then just emphasizing the synergy between you and your Israeli partner as essential. We are midstream in the execution of our project. So, I am obviously sharing what is true in our experience, but also speculating a little bit in terms of how things will ultimately evolve in terms of the technical and business outcomes. But what can I say in terms of the implementation stage? Just work closely. I look at these Israeli companies, just basically like European partners. That they seem to behave similarly as you would imagine, like small, medium, large companies in Europe, and they have strong rule of law, and they're extremely diligent. Execution is A+, at least in our experience, and of course every partner will be different. But the advice that I could give or share from our experience is just to create that operational rhythm, whether it's weekly or biweekly or monthly or whatever, and just to create a rhythm of collaboration between you and your partner, and then document, plan, execute just like you would with any other business or research partner. I think that their execution is A+, and we document well every test we perform internally. We have a test plan and we create reports. So we've sort of fallen into a nice little rhythm. It's the same essentially. They're 7 hours ahead. So it's like working with a European, kind of like working with a European or Indian partners. They're just a little bit ahead of us, half a day ahead of us. And our experience has been extremely positive. And then at the bottom here, some of this, we're still midstream. So, but this is what I believe will be vital is just like any other partner, it's about relationships. It's about human relationships. And, we're very pleased, chatting, rapping with these folks. And we've been able to develop personal, professional relationships with these folks at Metafim. And I would, emphasize that, as I believe that'll be vital as the technology matures, projects concluded and we enter into the business side, you know, we anticipate a successful scientific and technical effort. But at the end of the day, as I say, it comes down to relationships, just like with any other partner here in the US, and to just build that connective tissue. And our goal, and obviously at the bottom there, it's pretty self-explanatory. What are our goals at each of these stages? In terms of identifying the partner, you want to find someone with that complementary capability that'll match, complement, not mimic your own strengths. And then in step 2, obviously, we want to get the non-dilutive funding. And in step 3, and on our company, OnVector, we're not there yet. We're still trying to conclude and execute and complete our technical goals. But clearly our goal is to create a market for our technology and make money together. So, you know, I think that is relatively straightforward. Yeah, that concludes what I had to share. So I guess I'll turn it back over to the Bird and Desca folks, you know, for the Q&A.
At this time, feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions to any one of our panelists.
Hi, Andrea. I'm Ariane. I'm the founder of a femtech company called Femly. We currently manufacture medical devices for women across the life cycle. We have already found our Israeli partner and are working through R&D and manufacturing. Would existing innovation be acceptable under this proposed grant, or does this have to be a completely new technology?
No, so certainly existing technology can be applied to this. I think what needs to be identified is the beginning and end point of the project. So we can't fund anything that we can't fund any kind of activity that you've already done, but you can define the starting point of your project with technology that you've already developed, and perhaps it's certain integration implementation towards kind of the commercial end. So typically these are projects with technology that's already been developed, but it's taking that technology and bringing it to the commercial end that we're funding. So what you're a Delaware-based company?
No, we're actually based in Baltimore, Maryland. We haven't started working with them, but it took me like 2 years to find the right partner, and we finally found them. So we're now working through like what that looks like and which medical devices we'd be creating for menstruation and pregnancy and postpartum.
Very cool. Actually, we've been really interested in the whole area of femtech, and
really? That's awesome.
one of my colleagues in Israel, that's like her thing, and so let's set up a call after this and see if maybe we could help you to apply towards the upcoming cycle. And you know, we'll see where you are and what we can define, and introduce your partner to my colleague in Israel and go from there. So,
that'd be beautiful. Cool. I think I'm one of like 2 Black women-owned companies in the country, so it's a big deal. So thank you.
Very cool. Rock star.
We have a shy group. Oh, it looks like Zev has a question.
Yeah, I put my hand up, so I unmuted. I don't know if you can hear me. Actually, just forming my entity today in Delaware. I live in Philadelphia, but I'm setting up a Delaware entity. I'm under constraint, kind of can't discuss details because of NDA reasons and stuff like that. But just a business question for you guys. If I don't necessarily need money from you, right? I'm starting my corporation, funding it on my own. If I don't need money from you, but I need you to facilitate possible government partnerships with Israel, so on, are you able to involve yourself and facilitate that type of relationship?
So my answer really would be to say the Philadelphia Israel Chamber of Commerce. So the PICC in Vered, she is actually the bird representative for her region. So even if you were to tell me you were interested in moving towards a bird funded project, Vered would be your first point of contact. But even more so, what you're talking about is really the type of activity that the PICC does for their members. So I would say set up a call with Vera. There's no one better than her. She worked for the government of Israel. So instead of me speaking her praises, Vera, you can you could speak to this.
Yeah, we're gonna launch this. Basically, we're gonna get it out there. We're gonna put it on the street, and then we would like to immediately try to develop a relationship with the Israeli government. So I'll let Vered talk for a minute. I'm sorry.
That's what I was going to say. Speak to Vered.
Thank you, Andrea. And so the Philadelphia Israel Chamber is a nonprofit, and what we do anything from, of course, coaching you for bird projects, but we facilitate daily connections between companies in academia, government agencies, investors in many, many different industries. It could be the femtech, which actually was coined as a name in Israel, which is a very emerging, field. Could be clean tech. We're very big on life sciences, healthcare, bio, digital health. Very big on food tech, anything sustainable. Prop tech now. We did a lot of innovation for COVID. And we also help with resources and bringing the governments in the region to talk to the Israeli government and the Innovation Authority, which Israel is per capita probably the one of the top nations in the world in investment in startups and innovation. So we work with the regional governments to try to bring the governments together to form agreements and to find resources like Ben Franklin has for joint ventures. Hopefully Delaware will allocate such funds. So please schedule with me a call later and we can discuss that. And if you work with the local government here, please help us. We want Delaware to fund joint ventures as well. Mm-hmm. Okay. I hope I answered.
Hi, my name is Zale Tavikman. I run an indoor vertical farming company. We are actually incorporated in Delaware, and we're operating in Philadelphia. So I guess we crossed the lines. Vered introduced me to the bird program yesterday, and I went onto the online location, Israeli startups. I identified 37 companies we could work with, which obviously we're not going to set up 37 projects, but I'm wondering, some of the projects are technology that we would integrate into our technology and go forward, and then use the combined new technology. The other part is where we grow vegetables, and we can grow them very controlled. So we could create vegetables that would be used by one of the Israeli partners as a potential vitamin company, creating a vitamin, a plant and vitamin and a raw material for them. In general, how do we pick of these 37 projects? Let's say everybody loves me, so I would assume all 37 want to work with us. But how do we pick out who and what, and how do we make that kind of a next step analysis?
So I'll try to answer this. I mean, at the end of the day, what I find in terms of let's say you have several partners and you're trying to choose which is the right partner. So certainly we kind of do that we consult with you. We have the first phase, in fact, if you're submitting with a partner, is the executive summary. And oftentimes, submitting that jointly with your partner allows you to kind of really scope out your project in a way that we can evaluate it, and we can identify if it or how closely it qualifies. So typically that's information we need to answer this question. But overall, remember that at the end of the day, we're looking to bring technology to the US market or to the global market. So if the partnership is leading to the Israeli market, probably not so much of interest, just because Israel's too small of a market for it to be really compelling for this program. So that's one thing that, if it's just something for the Israeli market, you probably want to look in a different direction. And as far as the partnership, again, you want to see that there's a high commitment level. So it can be a great partner, but if you're getting the feeling that there's not a really strong commitment on the behalf of your partner, then that's probably not the great, even if it has everything else, without a strong commitment. And I'm sure Daniel can really attest to this. And Daniel's working with a multinational company, you know, and sometimes, you know, that can even be challenging if you don't have the right champion to really be kind of keeping your project on track. In his case, he does have a great champion and they're really committed to the project. But that's really important. That's something I always try to evaluate when I'm doing kind of that initial due diligence on the project towards towards our board meetings. So you can tell pretty early on if there's what the commitment level is. And you want to make sure that you have that strong champion and you have a strong backup champion in case that person leaves the company for whatever reason or is transferred into a different position. So I would say that's second important thing. And everything else that you mentioned, again, we would really need to evaluate it on a case-by-case basis.
I have one follow-on question. Is the ultimate goal is to create a product that is sold in North America?
It is to create a product or technology that can be marketed, distributed globally. So it could be North America, it could be Europe, it could be but it should be it should be something that is that can be sold in the global market, even if the US is big enough. So
as a start, I was thinking starting the first step. Okay.
Yes.
If I may add, so think about it like that. They created this fund to basically create R&D jobs in both nations and push the innovation in different fields significantly forward. So when you write your proposal, where you think about the project you select, it of course should match whatever your company's goals are, but also think about the missions of both nations and what would be on the top priority for both nations at the moment. So in the case of Zelle, food sustainability is really hot. This is something that we all care for. So when you write your proposal, you have to target it as such that it highlights, how it will benefit the two nations, plus, of course, the entire world. It really, if you provide something that is really meaningful, your chances are really going to shine in front of your investors, and the investors in this case are the two governments. But I think this is a really important time for you to take advantage and ask Dan about his experience, because you can always talk to Andrea and to me in a follow-up call, but unfortunately then we can't call him every time to ask for his feedback, and the personal experience of this collaboration is very important. For example, Dan, tell us about a story about what your experience, establishing the relationship with your partners.
Yep. Before I do, just addressing the gentleman's question, if you have like 30 plus different opportunities and partners, I think you just want to zero in on one or two, or at least at a time. To echo Vered and Andrea's point, which one is the most compelling? Which one is the one that, your technology, your approach is uniquely differentiated, and, how that marries with what the needs are in, the industry and in the marketplace, and at the same time complementing or being complemented by the Israeli partner. I think that would be, some of the selection criteria that you use to prioritize, and the market size, of course, and the opportunity, but ultimately, where your technology is uniquely suitable to address the need. In our case, I feel, and we're blessed in the sense that we do have, we believe, world-leading expertise and technology within our segment. Plasma has been one of the holy grails for water treatment for many, many years. We sort of cracked the code on it, and we are productizing it. So we were able to attract the high level of interest from the Israeli partner right away. But I wouldn't have hesitated to send 2 or 3 or 4 letters and work down the list that Andrea and I had generated. And, it's just like any business development opportunity, right? It's like a numbers game. You just got to have a thick skin and just, keep firing. But our experience, we wrote the letter, we talked it through with Andrea. She gave us guidance every step. And then, their CTO of this partner entity expressed, immediate interest. And then next thing it's just like any other commercial partnering effort here in the States. You're identifying champions, cultivating them, building consensus, sharing, your technology, NDAs, it's the same stuff. But there's this little carrot that motivates them and certainly motivates us is a little bit of non-dilutive funding. And the one other point, if I may, is going back to Zale, your question about selecting and prioritizing. You want to stay on mission, right? Ultimately, we're building a business here. And as the leader of your business, your job is to point to the true north and find the product market fit that will drive growth. Pick the one, include that in your criteria is what is the central beachhead market that you want to address. I mean, that should be one of the factors in selecting.
How long was the process for you?
I want to say the outreach effort was around 2 or 3 months. On our part, I mean, we have other projects and primarily, the commercialization business development efforts that distracted us away from the BIRD grant proposal. So I think there was a gap from the time when we identified the partner, and then we actually co-wrote and delivered the executive summary. But and they were fine with that. I mean, it's I think the normal course of business. I would say you want to, if you're looking, for instance, at the deadlines that Andrea suggested, you'd be looking at the December timeline, at the earliest rather than the June timeline. I think I would say 3 to 6 months minimum to partner and develop a proposal. Andrea and Vered might be better suited to answer that generally.
I think it depends on if you have pre-existing relationship with a company and you know what you want, because I think what you pointed out, I've seen a lot of companies, not just for BIRD, and they're all excited. Okay, we want partner. We want to, first of all, figure out what you really want to do that will benefit your company, and then talk about the money. The money is secondary. And then make sure that the partners that you find are the suitable partners for your companies. And the other thing is really not everybody's available to adopt. Maybe people want to, we've seen many times where people actually won the grant and they had so much going on for the company, especially if it's a small company, and they just waited with execution another round. They didn't take the money even if they wanted, because they had other things. So you have to consider the well-being of your company before anything else, even if you get the money, which we want to see you getting it and we want to see you executing. Andrea, anything else?
Andrea, what's the application process? Andrea Vered, what's the actual process for application?
Andrea, go ahead.
Well, before I answer that, I just want to say to Zale, you may want to take a look. We funded a project through the BIRD Energy program between the vertical agricultural company Aero Farms in Newark, New Jersey, and an Israeli company called Jugano, which it has a very specialized kind of LED lighting solution that was integrated into the vertical farm. So just a really interesting, really good project. So something related to what you're talking about.
And I think we have a recording, right, Andrea? We have a recording.
We did a webinar and they spoke about their project. So go to the BIRD website, and under our events calendar, I think it was last year sometime. You'll see it, and you can, if you're interested. As far as the application process, basically, Dan answered a lot of that. The first step is to identifying a partner. That can happen in many different ways with or without our help. I would say if you're a Delaware, Pennsylvania, or South Jersey company, the first person to talk to is Vered. Vered and I work together all the time, so it's not really it's not like she doesn't have access to me. She always does, but she's probably your best initial contact. But once you have that partner, you submit the executive summary jointly towards one of our deadlines. Like I said, we have two general cycles a year and one cycle for bird energy. I should mention that if you're applying for the bird energy cycle or Homeland Security, you can work with a university or research institution as your partner. The other has to be a company, and the general bird has to be two companies. But once you've submitted the executive summary, we review it internally and give you a recommendation if you should or should not move forward with the process. At that point, you have only about a month or so to work on your full-scale proposal, and that is quite a serious undertaking. It does need to be a detailed and comprehensive proposal, and Dan can certainly knows more about that, in fact, than I do from the application and writing point of view. That full-scale proposal is reviewed by technical reviewers on the outside of the bird team, on the U.S. side, on the Israeli side, either through NIST, DOE, DHS, and similar organizations on the Israeli side, the Israel Innovation Authority, and either the Israeli Ministry of Energy or Public Security, whatever it may be for that program. And then the board meets and selects the projects. It's about from beginning to end, it's about a 3 to 4 month process from initial executive summary to approval. At that point, the companies must sign a company-to-company agreement with the Bird Foundation, and then they get an advance based on both of those contracts being signed. They get an advance on their project, and then every 6 months they submit fiscal and technical reports. And they receive their next amount of funding based on showing that they've used the funding that they received as they said they would. And then they, based on that, they receive the next. This happens every 6 months for the duration of the project. Most projects are about 2 years, 18 months to 2 years. Anything I'm forgetting, Dan, in terms of that process, now that you've written your proposals and you've submitted your reports?
No, I think that's exactly right. The proposal, it's similar in terms of flavor to any other research proposal that you may have written, for an SBIR or other grant. Obviously it has its own idiosyncrasies, but that's true actually of every funding agency. That grantsmanship part where you got to format it right and write the right sections and address and be responsive to their sections, I think is vital. They build in a commercial part. So how is this going to be commercialized? What is your expectation? In our case, obviously, it was a little, that part was self-explanatory insofar as our partner would be the distributor, and they do have a global reach. But if we were partnering with a medium or smaller company, we could just determine that together and map out a pro forma. It's a 20 plus page document, just like any other grant proposal with references and just addressing and responding to the sections that they have in the template document.
Dan, can you please elaborate on what was beneficial in working with Israeli companies from culture point of view? What was challenging? How is it different? Time difference, culture difference, all those things?
Yeah, I don't see, as of yet, any negatives. When I look, I think I have very high regard for Israeli technology, but at the end of the day, it's a very small place, right? So it's a nation, but in terms of the population, it's very small. So it's almost worthwhile to think of it like a region, like the Bay Area or Shenzhen. But it's even smaller than that in a sense. or like a city state like Singapore or a small country like Denmark. I mean, it's hard to, it's an odd bird. Israel is an odd bird. In terms of their technological capability, I would say is very high. And that's been our experience in terms of our partnership, but also, that's my opinion based on my reading of the business and technical news. The operationally and culturally, I'd say, it's been A+. Like I said, they're 7 hours ahead, and the guy, the folks speak with an accent. They all speak English, so it's feels like a European partner, they execute very diligently. They work on Sundays. They don't work on Fridays. So if you have like deliverables you want from them, you can fire it over to them on the weekend, and things can come in on Sunday and Monday, and you save a day. Actually, it's don't waste that day where they're working on our Sunday, those are some of the comments that I would share. Jared.
Have you visited Israel?
Not yet. I mean, COVID happened. We did have a little travel in the budget, and I'm hoping. So the technology is getting out of the lab, and it needs to go into the irrigation field soon. So I hope we can make it out there. I hear it's very hot in the summer, so ideally, October, November, maybe at the end of the year, we can visit and install the tech into the irrigation fields.
As Philadelphia Israel Chamber, we take delegations to Israel. The last one was last January with Governor Wolf, but before that, September, all that before COVID. If you plan on collaborating, and Andrea and I always recommend trying to schedule time, not just in Zoom, but to visit Israel and understand create the personal, more relationship with your partners. Typically, it really helps with the project. Any more questions?
Yeah, we have another question from Khalif Wright from Bimbo Bakery's yes. Corporate Venture Team. Would you like to ask your question?
Yes, thank you for that. I know we're almost out of time. So work on the corporate venture team here. We've partnered recently with an Israeli bakery company that's going to be launching in the U.S. soon, with products in the U.S. soon. They're still doing R&D work. So I'm curious about how the payback parameters work. Hopefully everyone has a successful JV, but what are the rules and rates and timing of payback once you hit commercial success? Thank you.
So I can answer that. Actually, if you, we probably don't have time now, I would just share it from our website. This is a royalty-based repayment mechanism. In fact, I'm going to put it on. So it's royalty-based. There is a repayment scale. Where are we? The bird model. Okay, I'm going to share my screen real quickly. It'll just be faster this way. Okay, so you'll see it here. So if you go actually to our website about and then the bird model, it explains it here in terms of the conditional grant and the grant repayments. So the way that it works, we try to encourage companies to repay sooner if they can, because there's less of an acceleration, but the acceleration is capped after the 5th year post-product completion, and at its cap of 150% of what the grant was. If they got the full million, it would be capped at 1.5 million. That's obviously indexed. But if the company is within the 1st year of project completion, wanted to repay it, it would be exactly what we put in with no acceleration. That goes up to the 5th year, like I said, at which time it caps out. But the minimum repayment, and this is what most companies do, it's 5% of the revenue specific to the project that we invested in per year until the repayment obligation has been completed. or until there's no more revenue for whatever reason, and then nothing more to repay. And so a lot of the repayments are partial. And if for whatever reason the project stops, if they, the companies, the revenue stopped after 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, whatever it may be, and they hadn't finished their repayment, then there's no more repayment requirement. So obviously you'll have more specific questions, but that's the general answer. Does that?
That's perfect. Thanks so much for the link. Appreciate it.
Well, we're just after 1, so I don't want to take anybody else's time away. If you have any other questions, there are, the emails are in the chat, and also the links. You go directly to the links if need be. And you can always contact myself or Dora at Desca if you have any questions, and we can connect you with the proper folks. So thank you all for attending.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Vered, Andrea, and Dan. Another great presentation, and hope this catalyzes some more collaborations.
Thank you for your collaboration. You're outstanding organization.
Yes,
thank you,
awesome.
everyone.
Awesome.
We'll speak to you again soon. You guys take care. Thank you for attending, everyone.
Thanks.
Okay, bye-bye.